Hello everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Ms. Diana from Steps 5, and I want to give a special shout out to my K1 students, all 17 of you. You know who you are, and if you're watching me right now, then I just want you to know that I miss each and every one of you, and I love you guys dearly, and I cannot wait for us to be reunited again soon. In the meantime, I wanted to do a story time for you guys. And today we will be reading a story that actually my teacher read to me when I was in elementary school and I was a little girl, just a couple years older than you guys are now. And this book was something that I enjoyed so much that she actually ended up gifting it to me at the end of the year. So this is a copy of the book that I got over 20 years ago from my teacher. So I just want to read it to you guys, and every year I read it to my students, and this year is no exception. It's called Miss Nelson is Missing. So this is the title, right? The title is, like we discussed, the name of the book. Now the author is James Marshall and Harry Allard, right? So there's two authors. An author is what? Author is someone who wrote the story, right? Who wrote the book. Awesome. Then we also have an illustrator, right? And an illustrator does what? An illustrator draws the pictures, all right? So just make sure that you guys are not forgetting all the parts of a book, right? So let's begin. Miss Nelson is missing. The kids in room 207 were misbehaving again. Spitballs stuck to the ceiling. Paper planes whisked through the air. They were the worst behaved class in the whole school. Now settle down, said Miss Nelson in a sweet voice. But the class would not settle down. They whispered and giggled. They squirmed and made faces. They were even rude during story hour, and they always refused to do their lessons. Something will have to be done, thought Miss Nelson. The next morning, Miss Nelson did not come to school. Wow, yelled the kids. Now we can really act up. They began to make horrible spitballs and more paper planes. Today, let's just be terrible, they said. Not so fast, hissed an unpleasant voice. A woman in an ugly black dress stood before them. I am your new teacher, Miss Viola Swamp, and she rapped the desk with her ruler. Where is Miss Nelson? Asked the kids. Never mind that, said Miss Swamp. Open those arithmetic books. Miss Nelson's kids did as they were told. Here she is, Miss Viola Swamp. They could see that Miss Swamp was a real witch. She meant business. Right away, she put them to work, and she loaded them down with tons of homework. We'll have no story hour today, said Miss Swamp. Keep your mouths closed and sit perfectly still, said Miss Swamp. And if you misbehave, you'll be sorry, said Miss Viola Swamp. The kids in room 207 had never worked so hard. Days went by and there was no sign of Miss Nelson. The kids all missed Miss Nelson. So you guys sitting at home, what do you think they're gonna do? Discuss it with your parents. Let's see if you're right. Maybe we should try to find her, they said. Some of them went to the police. Detective McSmog was assigned to the case. He listened to their story. He scratched his chin. He said. I think Miss Nelson is missing. Detective McSmog would not be much help. So they went to the police station to report that Miss Nelson is missing. This is Detective McSmog, right? Other kids went to Miss Nelson's house. The shades were tightly drawn and no one answered the door. In fact, the only person they did see was the wicked Miss Viola Swamp coming up the street. If she sees us, she'll give us more homework. And they got away just in time. Maybe something terrible happened to Miss Nelson. Maybe she was gobbled up by one of the sharks, said one of the kids. But that didn't seem likely. You guys think she was gobbled up by one of the sharks? Probably not, right? Maybe Miss Nelson went to Mars, said another kid. But that didn't seem very likely either. What do you guys think? Do you think she went to another planet? You think she went to Mars? Probably not, right? I know, exclaimed one know-it-all. Maybe Miss Nelson's car was carried off by a swarm of angry butterflies. But that was the least likely of them all. Definitely not that, right? The kids in room 207 became very discouraged. It seemed that Miss Nelson was never coming back, and they would be stuck with Miss Viola Swamp forever. They heard footsteps in the hall. Here comes the witch, they whispered. Hello, children, someone said in a sweet voice. Who do you guys think that is? Let's find out. It was Miss Nelson. Did you miss me? She asked. We certainly did, said all the kids. Where were you? That's my little secret, said Miss Nelson. How about a story hour? Oh, yes, said all the kids. Miss Nelson noticed that during story hour, no one was rude or silly. What brought about this lovely change? She asked. That's our little secret, said all the kids. She's back, and the class is finally behaving, right? Back home, Miss Nelson took off her coat and hung it in the closet, right next to an ugly black dress. When it was time for bed, she sang a little song. I'll never tell, she said to herself with a smile. P.S. Detective McSmog is working on a new case. He is now looking for Miss Viola Swamp. The end. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to this book and to my story time. Now, I just want to ask a question the way that we always discuss after we have our story time. And the question is that I always ask you after I read is, what does this book teach us? What does this story teach us, right? So what is the lesson that we learn from this book? Now, I want you guys to discuss it with your parents, your guardians, your grandparents, whoever is next to you. Go ahead and discuss that question with them and then enjoy, all right? And I will see you guys again shortly because I will be back here soon for circle time, I'm thinking yoga time, and maybe even a little bit of a spelling quiz, right? In the future. So thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.